This video is step 2 of the Pillowcase project. We're going to start here at the ironing board, and we want to take just a moment here to discuss different aspects that you need to be aware of. First of all, our irons are plugged in right up here into the ironing board case. These used to be a timer that would turn off automatically, so we just need to make sure that at the end of the hour we're getting them turned back off. If this light is off, it means that there is no power going to your iron. So simply crank that over and that puts power to your iron. Now, at the end of the hour, we need to make sure we turn that back off again. Please don't forget that. Next, you've got your iron itself. There's also, these are smart irons. There's also a light right here. If this just sits for more than about 5 minutes by itself and it doesn't move, the iron will shut off. So you're looking for 2 lights, one light here and one light right up here. If this light is on, it means the iron is getting hot. So the iron, this is the part that gets hot. You don't want it to come into contact with your skin as it will burn you. This is our temperature control knob. Most of you here brought the right kind of fabric, which means you brought a woven cotton, which means it can withstand really high temperatures. So we're not going to mess with the temperature knob in this class. You'll notice this iron also has a spray nozzle that squirts water out the end. We don't put water in these simply because you need to use distilled water inside of an iron. So we have our water bottles right here. Notice these are made of plastic. If they get too close to the iron, they will melt. Please avoid that from happening. We want to make sure that if you're not using the squirt bottle, that it is hanging right up there. Remember, the squirt bottle is not intended to spray your neighbor. It is simply meant to spritz your fabric. An ironing board is just a large flat surface that allows you to press your fabric. Working with step 2 and the directions right here, it says we're going to take our narrow trim and we're going to fold it in half lengthwise. So our trim is also our accent piece. It's the one that was cut 2.5 inches wide. So we're going to unfold it completely, and we want to fold it in half lengthwise with ugly sides together. You can easily tell my pretty side from my fabric and my ugly side of my fabric. Some of your guys' fabrics you're not going to be able to tell. If you can't easily tell, pick a side to be your ugly fabric. Okay, so I can easily tell. I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to fold it in half, matching up those cut edges as perfectly as I can. I'm going to just press going across my fabric just like this, lining up those cut edges all the way across. The closer you line them up, the easier the next couple of steps are going to be. The straighter you cut, the easier it is to line this up. So we're going to work our way across the ironing board. We're going to pull our fabric over so that we can get this tail end over here. Again, I make this look really easy. You're going to do your best to do it just the way that I'm doing it. We're working our way across. Now our narrow trim is folded in half, and you've got pretty sides on both sides. Step 2 continues right over here by the sewing machine. You're going to have to be patient with each other at the ironing board. Around the room there are lots of different ironing boards that you can use, and we've got a couple of extra irons. This is the part that takes so long, is waiting in line for the ironing board. So please pay attention and be patient. When it's your turn, get on the ironing board and work. When it's not your turn, get out of the way. So step 2 says now we're going to lay our material indicated in like the picture below. So we're going to take our hem fabric, which is the piece that you cut at 12 inches, and I'm going to open it completely, and I'm going to lay it with pretty side up. So I've opened it up and I've laid it out pretty side up. Now what it wants me to do is to lay my trim fabric on top of that with the cut edges together. So I'm going to line up my cut edges. I've got a cut edge on this side, but I've got 3 cut edges on this side. So I'm lining up these cut edges just as completely as possible. Right in your drawer, you've got a magnetic pin cushion with your pins on it. You're going to pull that out. Pinning. We are going to pin perpendicular to where we're going to sew. So you're going to stick your pin in through all the layers of the fabric and then back to the top. Okay? We are lining up that cut edge as straight as possible. The straighter you cut, the easier it is to line this up. You'll notice I do not need to put the pins pin to pin to pin to pin. I can put them about a hand width apart, and that is going to be enough pinning to hold my fabric together while I want to sew. The whole purpose of pinning is to have pins hold your project together so that your hands can be doing something else. We're just going to line this up as close as possible all the way across, sticking pins through the entire fabric perpendicular to where we're going to sew. Working our way across about a hand width apart. Now as we work our way to the other side, sometimes your fabric is going to line up exactly just like mine is. The widths are exactly the same. Sometimes you might have a little bit extra, like maybe this only goes to about right in there. Sometimes it might go beyond that. At this point, just leave it. Ignore that they're not the right length. We'll cut those off later, okay? So now we are ready to work on our sewing machine. We are going to be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is the outside edge of your presser foot. We want to make sure we're sewing straight. So as you move your project to the sewing machine, we're turning the sewing machine on. We are using just a normal straight stitch. We are lining up the edge of our fabric, the cut edge of our fabric, with the edge of the presser foot. We are going to sew 1 or 2 inches and back stitch 1 or 2 stitches. Sorry, not inches, stitches. We're keeping that lined up on that outside edge of the presser foot. Look, the machine does the work. All your hands need to do is guide your fabric. You will notice that I just sewed over a pin and the world didn't end. It's okay to sew over pins. Sometimes though, the pins have a tendency to get caught right there. It is always a good idea to have your needle down when you're stitching, so that just in case you need to stop, you can pull that pin out as you're working. Remember, pins that get pulled out always get put back onto the pin cushion. We don't put them on the counter, we don't set them right here, because then they end up in somebody's foot. We're working our way across all the way to the other side. Our hands are guiding our fabric all the way to the other side of the, see, and it's getting caught again. That's okay, we can simply pull it out. Our needle is down, so we can pivot back and forth, and it's not going to cause a little jag in our stitch. So we're working our way across. You can go as fast or as slow as you are comfortable with. The worst thing that's going to happen when you sew over a pin is it might bend the pin. That's okay. It might break the needle. That's okay. Throw the bent pin away. Oh, see, that one went right over. Throw the bent pin away, throw the broken, or just change the needle and move on with life. And we're doing just fine. We're just using our hands. I like to keep one hand right here in front and one hand kind of off to the side, just guiding my project so that the machine is doing the work. All I'm doing is guiding, keeping my fabric lined up on this outside edge of the presser foot all the way across. As we reach the other side, we're going to backstitch 1 or 2 stitches, and then we're going to put our needle up and we're going to pull out all of those pins. I want you to take a close look at the seam right here. It's a little bit hard to see sometimes because the thread matches so easily. The distance from here to the edge of the fabric is 1/4 inch. The straighter you sew this, the easier the next 2 stitches are going to be to do. If you have little weird jogs in it and you're not sewing straight, it's going to make things a lot more challenging. We are now ready for step 3.